Have you ever been up late at night looking for a movie to watch or a video game to play? You scroll and scroll, and then you find out that your favorite subscription service does not have the movie you're looking for. Or perhaps they offer an altered version of that film. Maybe you find yourself playing a video game that is available on Game Pass, and the next week you find that not only is it gone, but it has been delisted from the digital store in its entirety. This is the world we live in. A world where our favorite stories are no longer owned by us. Nobody except a select few seem to care. I am one of those few. And if you are watching this video, I would like to convince you that you should care about owning your content. So how did we end up in a world where we have traded ownership for convenience? A large part of this is due to the internet, but also it's a bit of a no-brainer to pay a small fee for countless movies. It is my personal belief that subscription services should be a supplement to ownership and not a replacement of owning your own media. In addition to my initial reasoning on why you should care about physical media, there are other reasons as well. But let's start with some details on the initial reasoning. The number one reason is ownership and preservation. It may come as a shock to you that no film or video game studio can break into your house and physically take your media, but it's the truth. People continue to hold on to all sorts of forms of media, even if they are technically outdated. Music is available on all sorts of formats, and vinyl has seen a substantial comeback lately. I'm not suggesting that we re-release movies on VHS, but the point stands that people still have old tapes and records. Some very old movies have never seen a standard DVD release. Example, a film that my father has been looking for is called The Last Chase, and you cannot find it on a legally created DVD. If you're lucky, you can find a VHS copy on YouTube or even a bootleg DVD. But this is a movie that has been lost to time, but thanks to some people, you can find poor versions of it on the internet. But perhaps the most famous example is the original theatrical cuts of Star Wars. The original versions of these films are not easy to come by, but there are a substantial amount of people dedicated to preserving the originals. A group of fans were able to get their hands on some old film reels of the original movies and have been working hard on scanning them in at high resolutions in an effort to preserve them. George Lucas would rather destroy the original versions because they are not his true vision of the films. Most film studios release multiple versions of the film and not just destroy the originals. It's like if Da Vinci took the Mona Lisa and painted a giant red X on it. Sure, he is within his right to do that, but he's now destroying a piece of history. In terms of preservation, I believe it's our job to own things like movies, video games, music, and books. You never know when things just might take a turn for the worst, and then all of a sudden, pieces of history and art just vanish. I think of the silent era of film, where 75% of those movies just no longer exist anymore. Movie studios saw them as profit only, not banking on the fact that people may want to watch them again in the future. It also doesn't help that film at the time was flammable and prone to accidents. Obviously, the home video market didn't exist back then, so there was no easy way to keep old film unless you worked at a movie theater. But the market exists today, and it's profitable. So why not sell us everything you got? The second reason is it's just better quality than streaming. I get it. Most people don't care about movies the same way I do, but there is a substantial difference between streaming a movie and watching it on a Blu-ray. If you're streaming in 4K, the highest quality for most streaming services is roughly around 25 megabytes per second. If you're watching a 4K disc, ideally it will be around 50 to 90 megabytes, which is substantially better than streaming. In simple terms, more megabytes per second equals more detail equals more quality. The best movie I've seen on 4K is Oppenheimer because it was shot on 70mm IMAX film, which has a theoretical resolution of 18K, which is crazy. If we're still scanning films in the future for physical media, then that means that this film will continue to look great for a long time. Reason number 3, no buffering or streaming. It's a pretty simple one, but yeah. The only buffering you will endure is if your disc is smudged or scratched. Good thing that Blu-ray discs are often scratch resistant. Number 4, resale and trade-in. You can't trade in a digital purchase in today's world, but a disc? You can do whatever you want with that thing. Lend it to your friend. Punt it across a football field. Go crazy. Number 5, Limited editions and special features. Special features often include the story on how the film was made and how it came to be. It's like a documentary for history, and many times it includes special insight from different actors or directors. These are things you wouldn't know if it wasn't on the record. I've talked about film, but what about video games? Unfortunately, this situation is even worse than the current state of film. For the last 15 years or so, games have been releasing unfinished or buggy as hell. The only way for this to be fixed is to be connected to the internet and pray that the game's creators have released a patch that fixes or completes the game. Look no further than to games like Halo Infinite and Battlefield 2042. When I was growing up, things just worked. Now you have to wait for the game to be installed. Then you have to download the patch. Then you have to make sure you're connected to the internet because the game won't work offline because they created an in-game shop so you can spend even more money on things for colors. Fortunately, there are still some video game studios that release their games on disc, feature complete. But those days are numbered. Some games are skipping physical releases, Alan Wake 2 and Hellblade 2 to name a few. But right now, some games that release on disc don't even feature a playable game off the disc. A few real-world examples include Halo Infinite and any recent Call of Duty game. To make matters worse, reports have circulated that Microsoft has started to shut down its physical games division. It has also been confirmed that Walmart will stop selling Xbox games within the beginning of 2024. Oh, and I forgot to mention that places like Target and Best Buy will stop selling 4K Blu-rays entirely. I know how to fix the installation and patch problems, but I doubt anybody will come to me for the ideas. So here goes my pitch anyway. All physical media, whether it be film, music, or video game, should be released on some sort of SSD. That way, there is no need to install, and you can download the patches straight to the SSD. 4K Blu-rays are already on 100GB discs, so why not put them on SSDs? The same can be said for video games. Most games these days are already exceeding 100GB, so why not? SSDs of large size are relatively affordable anyway, so a small one, say 256GB, should be about as much as a 100GB disc. How can we change the trajectory of the industry? If history has taught us anything, it's that we need to vote with our wallets. Unfortunately, I think most people will remain content with not owning their stuff, and that is exactly what the corporations want. Ubisoft recently said that we would need to get comfortable with not owning our games. Not if I have anything to say about it. Not that their games are worth owning anyway. In conclusion, buy your media physically. Show them that they can't own it. We the people made these corporations what they are by voting with our wallets, and we can unmake them just as easily. If only we would speak out against them. Thanks for watching. If you agree, then make your support known in the comments and in the real world.